Welcome back to Dark Fables. This week's story, you should be all too familiar with this as it's been told many a time. However, this is Dark Fables, so expect a much creepier, more interesting ending, along with a different morality lesson to this particular story. The story this week, of course, is Jack and the Beanstalk. In another time and place, there was a young lad called Jack who lived with his mother in a very run-down house. They weren't able to look after it well, as they were very poor. So any money they had left was used on food, with none left over for repairs. His mother used to run a farm, but after Jack's father abandoned them, she had to slowly sell parts of the farm to pay the bills. They were now left with a ruined shack and a single cow to try and feed them both. One fated day, Jack's mother told him they had to take the cow to the market to sell, while she went down to the river to wash their clothes. Jack was rather fond of the cow, but agreed to sell her, as he knew this was the only way they would earn some money to eat that day. On his way to the village, he came across a shady-looking fellow waiting on the path. "Hey there, Sonny Jim," said the man gruffly. "I want your cow." Jack replied back rather timidly, "Sorry, sir, but Mother says I have to take her to market. I have to get the best price for her." The man snorted and wiped his face in his sleeve. "All right, you want a good price. I'll give you the best I have." And with that, he reached into his pocket. "These magic beans." "Beans?" quizzed Jack. "I may be young, hungry and poor, but I wasn't born yesterday. 3 beans isn't going to feed me for long, let alone my mother as well." The man laughed. "I said magic beans. You don't eat these, or you'll have a worst stomachache. You plant one of these, then you wait for it to grow. What'll rate you is treasure beyond belief." Jack wasn't convinced. "If you get treasure, then why are you selling them? Why are you not dressed in the finest linen?" "Ah, good eye," said the man. "I have more than enough treasure to last me a lifetime. And if I wore the treasure on me and nice clothes all about me, I'd soon be robbed. Oh, you know how desperate some of these poor folk can get. Right." Jack looked down at his feet, for he knew that in his desperation there had been times when he had stolen either items to sell or food itself to ensure that he and his mother could eat that evening. "What do you want of the cow?" he asked. "Well, never you mind," said the man. "Do you want the treasure or not?" Yes, give them here," he said in excitement, passing over the reins of a cow to the man. "Thank you. Pleasure doing business with you," he said, and the man as he wandered off with his cow. Jack was so pleased with himself, running home as fast as he could to tell his mother the good news. For his troubles, he was met with nothing but anger. "You stupid boy!" screamed his mother. "That cow was the last thing I could sell to get us money and food, and you bought some stupid fake beans. I was going to buy some cleaning items to try and earn money, but you had to go and get tricked by some snake oil-like salesman. Did he sell you some elbow grease as well?" "Sorry, Mother," said Jack quietly. "He said it would bring us treasure beyond belief. I did check him out and he seemed genuine." "Bah!" said the mother as she turned away. "I'm going to bed. Hopefully I can fall asleep before I get too hungry." And with that, she left Jack alone with his thoughts. He decided he may as well plant one of the beans to see if they'd work. Eagerly, he planted it in the field outside his window. He put the other two in his pocket for safekeeping, then went to bed himself. In the morning, Jack woke up later than usual, as the sun didn't shine its morning beam straight onto him. Instead, his window was completely in the shade. He rubbed his eyes and looked out. Sure enough, as the man had said, not only had the bean grown, but it was so tall and wide it was blocking his view of the sky. It was wider than his house and higher than his eyes could ever see, reaching high into the clouds. He went to wake his mother up to see, and then remembered that she would be hungry. And instead of waiting longer, he ran to the beanstalk to climb it. He thought if he came back with treasure now, his mum would be overjoyed, rather than angry and hungry. Thankfully, the beanstalk had enough branches and twisted vines all around it that climbing was as easy as walking around, only having to jump to another section every so often. It made going up so quick and efficient, he made it up there in just a few minutes. At the top, breaking through the clouds, he could see an enormous mansion. Not just big, but beyond massive. As he walked towards it, it appeared larger and larger, as if he could almost never reach it before it grew even larger in size. Eventually, though, he was right next to the mansion and was able to walk inside through the gap between the front door and the wall. What he saw filled him with awe. It was indeed a giant house. Everything was to scale for a creature much taller than him by about 100 times. He would have to be careful navigating this place, for everything was out of reach without climbing, and he didn't have much in the way of climbing gear. He was very fortunate with a beanstalk being able to walk up and down it. After several hours of struggling, he made it up to the kitchen counter, fashioning himself a large sack out of a napkin, which he took a great deal of strength to try and tear it up to size, ripping off pieces of a giant food and collecting them. There were a couple of golden coins left on the counter too that he managed to pick up and carry, just. He knew he'd be back, but for now, that was enough to take home. After getting down the beanstalk, he showed his mother his sack, emptying it in front of her. She could hardly believe her eyes, then gave him a big hug. "Thank you," she said. "I'm sorry I snapped at you. You can understand why I didn't think this was real, though." Jack smiled sadly. "I do, and it's okay. I know how desperate we've been." "Well, no longer," said the mother. "Can you get some more food and coins from up there?" "Sure, I'll go after we've eaten," he said. "I'm sorry you can't come with me. It'd make us able to grab more." "Me too, but I'd love to see it and help you, but I just can't with this bad back. But enough of that for now. Come on, let's go eat." And once they had eaten their fill, and the mother had hid the giant coins away, Jack went back up the beanstalk, now loaded with bags and other tools, ready to get more loot. Once again, he snatched up food and coins, along with anything else he could carry. Anything larger he tied with rope and dragged behind him. After getting more than his fair share, he started to leave the mansion, various items clanging behind him. It was at this point that the homeowners made an appearance, or rather, announcement.
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of a little one,
Came his booming voice, so deep and loud it made even this giant's home shake. Jack was terrified and hid for a while. The giant scanned the room, sniffing the air, moving swiftly through to try and locate his prey, bellowing again,
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of a little one.
Jack waited for the giant to pass and give him an opening. Whilst waiting, he was looking around for other exits, when something else of interest caught his eye. In the distance, where the giant had come from, he could see a large goose in a cage. Not quite the giant's size, but the size of an adult human, in a nest. Next to the goose were several golden eggs. Jack knew he'd be set up for life if he had her, but he was over encumbered already, so he'd have to get her later. The giant turned his attention to his loaf of bread, of which Jack had ripped off several pieces of.
Darn humans, always nibbling at me bread,
The giant muttered to himself. Jack took this moment to make his escape and run for the door. Unfortunately, running fast while having a bunch of metal items and sacks of food doesn't make you very quiet, even to a giant's set of ears. So the giant immediately turned his gaze upon his little visitor.
Little human, he shouted, yum, yum, yum.
And with that, he ran towards Jack. The little human, of course, ran even faster towards the door, with the one saving grace being that he could just slip through the gap where the giant needed to open the door, slowing him down. As Jack neared the beanstalk, the giant gained on him. He was getting so close, he was able to lean towards Jack and reach out to grab him. Jack had other plans. Quickly, he picked up a giant metal sewing needle and held it out towards the giant hand, steadfast like a guard of a lance, towards cavalry. The giant's hand got impaled on the needle, to which the giant yelped out like a wounded puppy, to which was surprising for someone so large. This brought Jack all the time he needed to get to the beanstalk and make his way down. As he descended, he kept looking around for the giant to follow. But this didn't happen. Perhaps as the beanstalk, the hole was too small for him to fit in. After getting down towards the firm ground, Jack handed everything to his mother, who looked at him in awe of getting so much, but also saw the urgency in Jack's face. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it," he stated to her. She put her hand to his cheek and said, "You are my son. If you think you can do it, I know you'll find a way. I'm sorry I wasn't supportive of you before, but you proved me wrong." And they both started to tear up. "I'm so proud of you," she said, before they hugged each other. With that, Jack dug deep into himself and found new strength to complete his task, to set him up for life. Grabbing any necessary tools, he raced up the beanstalk, back up the home of a giant, the source of a treasure. Navigating his way before carefully, this time he wandered further into the house, back where he saw the giant emerge from, where he saw the golden egg-laying goose. Quickly, he fastened his ropes to the cage for safety, but started carrying her out. With the movement, the goose started honking as loud as it could for attention, which of course drew the giant out from where he was hiding.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell your blood, a little one.
And with that, the giant emerged from a nearby room, slamming it open as he appeared. Jack held tight to the goose and ran. However, he soon discovered that he was unable to move. His feet were stuck in some kind of sticky substance. He was stuck on the spot. The giant made good use of this and reached down, picking him up from the stuff with ease.
You pests keep coming here. I start laying traps for you, including the sticky paste. This'll be the last time you steal from me,
He bellowed at Jack. Fearing the worst, Jack thought of a last-ditch effort to save himself. He remembered he still had 2 of the magic beans left. Waiting until the giant bored him close enough to his face, Jack threw one of the beans into the giant's mouth, who then swallowed it in surprise, with a small item being suddenly there in his mouth.
Yuck! I hate beans,
He said, as he suddenly tried to cough it out and lowered himself down to do so. Jack made good use of this moment, pushed out from the giant's grasp, and ran towards the beanstalk with the golden goose in tow. As he ran down the beanstalk, he could hear the giant shouting angrily after him, but couldn't make out quite what he was saying. As Jack neared the bottom of the beanstalk, he thought he was home safe. He suddenly saw the light outside, getting darker and darker. In a moment, the ground rumbled and shook, with the giant landing just outside the house in agony. He was squirming in pain, not from the fall, but something else. Jack and his mother looked on in horror as the giant's belly started protruding, until eventually a giant beanstalk erupted from within him, leaving Jack with 2 giant beanstalks outside his family home, along with the dead giant. Jack and his mother hugged, then celebrated their new fortune, as they had treasure, a golden goose, and an empty mansion to now harvest every little piece of their finances. A few weeks had passed of Jack and his mother living in luxury, whilst also trying to keep quiet, to stop the thieves, of course, when all of a sudden they felt a massive earthquake. The ground shook in anger, awaiting a force of nature to quiet it. Jack stepped out from the house, now clean and in well-fitting clothes. "What the?" he exclaimed as he saw visitors to the property. They were giants, like the ones he had met before, but quite different in their appearance.
Halt, criminal scum! It's the giant police, said one of the giants.
Jack's mother rushed out. "What is the meaning of this? My son isn't a criminal." The giant stared down at the mother.
He robbed and murdered the poor gentleman, whose body is rotting away on your lawn. Open and shut case. You even have his golden goose, which is registered under his insurance. so we know it was your boy.
The mother was stunned. Did you really steal from this giant? I thought you were just trading and hustling or something. Jack looked at his feet. I did, but that's how I got anything for us to eat. I'm so sorry, Mother. And with that, he received his rebuke, a slap from his mother. I don't care how hungry we were. You don't hurt others, even financially. Oh, Jack, what am I ever going to do with you?
Not your concern, miss. I'm afraid he's going to be judged by us, said the giant police officer.
She started crying. No, he's a good boy. He was just trying to feed us. We were very poor before this. The giant police officer piped up.
Well, that would make sense if he hadn't killed the victim with magic beans.
Jack started arguing back. Well, he was going to kill me and eat me. What was I supposed to do? The giant policeman said,
Reasonable force. Magic beans come under a lethal weapon. Why would you carry them on your person if you didn't intend to use them? For that, you are under arrest.
And with that, Jack and his mother lost everything. Jack set himself up for life in that giant prison, and Jack's mother lost her only son. The moral here, if it isn't clear already, is no matter how desperate your situation, you should be kind to others. You shouldn't steal or take from others to benefit yourself, for it will soon come back to punish you, and likely those around you that you care about most. Good night, and remember, please like and subscribe, and if there's any particular dark fable you'd like me to do, either revisiting previous ones or doing brand new ones, then please leave a comment below. Thank you.